Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint Netcast number 159, recorded live Monday, June 10th, 2013. I'm, of course, Todd Klindt, your host, and the winner last night of a Tony for Best Musical based on a SharePoint book. There was a lot of competition there. I was a little nervous. I didn't know, how that was going to go. Neil Patrick Harris was great. We hung out, but there it is, my Tony for Best Musical based on a SharePoint book, this guy right here. And of course, none of this would be possible. The netcast, all the technical issues that I have, the flag that I've got in the background, none of that would be possible without the fine folks at Rackspace that continue to give me paychecks week after week. I don't know what's gotten into them. I don't know why. I don't question it. But if you've got hosting needs, SharePoint, Exchange, Apache, whatever that is, LAMP, I've heard that's something big. We do that too. Go to Rackspace.com. And you can go to Rackspace.com/SharePoint to see all about the SharePoint offerings that we have at Rackspace. And by all means, help them out, because if you help buy from Rackspace, then it'll keep me going, all that kind of stuff. It'll be great. So check out Rackspace.com. So first, production notes. There was no Netcast 2 weeks ago because of Memorial Day, and I'm lazy and all that. And then there was no Netcast last week because I was at TechEd in New Orleans. I blame the beignets. Might have hit the beignets a little hard while I was in New Orleans. For most of you, I know that I don't drink alcohol or anything like that, but you get a little bit of powdered sugar, some deep fat fried dough, and sometimes I've been known to overdo myself a little bit and just get a little. But in all seriousness, as is often the case when I travel, I tried to do it. The hotel internet, in no way, shape, or form at 8:30 at night was going to be able to handle this. It couldn't handle anything. I spent most nights tethering off my trusty Android phone right here, and not a phone that I've thrown across the room yet. So Monday night I would have had to try to do that. I was going to try to do it at the conference center, but the conference center closed down at 9, and there was just no way I was going to get it all done. So I wanted to do it. I tried to do it. I thought about you guys, but it just wasn't in the cards. So I apologize for taking 2 weeks off. But now I'm well rested. All my technical difficulties are also well rested. So we got to do battle right before the recording went online. It was epic. It was great. I became the victor, though we'll see. I haven't checked any of these recordings. But those are the technical notes. I also was kind of late with the RSS feeds and the blog posts for Netcasts 158 and 157. That was kind of by design, though, because I knew there was going to be a gap in there, so I tried to spread them out. But I'm good this week, and I'm good next week. The week after that, I'm going to be in Madrid for TechEd Europe, and with the time differences and carry the 6 and all that kind of stuff, this thing takes place at like 1:30 in the morning European time. So I won't be doing it normal time, but I'm going to try to do it sometime over there for the European folks. So if you're in Europe, stay tuned, watch my blog. I'm going to try to do a European version of the Netcast in 2 weeks. Gosh, is it 2 weeks already? 2 weeks in Madrid, Spain. So there won't be one at 8:30 Central American time, and not Central America, but Central Space America. But it'll be at some other time. We'll try. And then again, if my hotel room can handle it and all that kind of stuff. So thanks for your patience in all of that. So the big news last week was TechEd, obviously. TechEd 2013 in New Orleans, Louisiana. Great time. I'm wearing an official TechEd shirt, though not the shirts from this TechEd. It doesn't say 2013 down there, because I actually threw those away in my hotel before I left. So I didn't think about that until I got home, and I'm like, I should have had a shirt for the podcast, but Netcast. But anyway, TechEd was great. Met a few of you there. There's a few of you in the chat room. Shout going out to Adrian Hall of Splunk fame. Hung out with him a little bit last week, and a couple of other folks. Had a blast. Had 2 sessions at New Orleans this year. The first was on Sunday. Shane and I had a pre-conference, an installation and configuration pre-conference. Great time. Had a huge audience, 130 some people signed up for that, and Shane and I were up to our old antics, and it was a good time. The only problem is we had some pretty stiff competition, and not from any of the other sessions because we blew them all out of the water. There was no worry about that. But some of you may have been reading stuff on the web that Microsoft decided to do a fire sale of Surfaces at TechEd, and they were selling 64 gig Surface RTs for $99, down from like $400, and they were selling 128 gig Surface Pros for $400, down from $1,000. Now, if you do the quick math, that's like 75% off of one, and like 60. It was a big deal. Those devices went on sale Sunday at noon in the middle of our pre-con. So Sunday morning, we had a packed house of 130 some people. The line for the Surfaces was about 2.5 hours long, 2 hours long. So starting after lunch, we had about 40 people, and then as the afternoon came by, the room started filling back out as people walked in with their Microsoft Store bags. So because the line was so long, and then the store was supposed to stay open until 6, our pre-conference ended at 5. So I thought no problem, I'll go down after the pre-conference and get my Surfaces. But they closed the line down at 4 because the line was so long that they knew they weren't going to be able to take care of everybody. So I had to wait for my Surface. We'll tell that story in a minute. But the pre-conference went well, had a lot of great attendance. People were asking good questions. We had a lot of good discussion, as is often the case. You guys that have been in any of Shane and our sessions know they're pretty loose, and we take a lot of questions and have discussions, and this crowd was good for all that. So thanks to everybody that showed up for that, and all the people that asked questions and things like that. The scripts that we used, the slides that we had, and there was like 3 slides and all that kind of stuff, is at toddklindt.com/teched2013. So if you want to grab those, you can grab those. Good stuff. Had a good time. So again, we talked about the Surfaces. That was the big story at TechEd. A lot of great things were announced. Next version of SQL was announced, SQL 2014. Next version of Windows Server was announced, Windows Server 2012 R2, Windows 8.1 on the client side, all kinds of huge announcements. But the story that dwarfed it all was the Surface sale. Again, $99 64 gig Surface RTs and $400 128 gig Surface Pros. So I was really looking forward to that. I was really anxious for that. I'm an Android guy. I've had several Android phones. I've got 2 Android tablets. I've got a little Android stick computer hooked up to my TV hanging on my wall here. Big fan of Android. It's served me pretty well. And I've heard nothing but bad things about Windows 8. I put Windows 8 on a laptop once. It was horrible. I had to shower with my clothes on, and I'm scrubbing it. It was just a terrible experience. But I was really looking forward to this because I wanted to get my hands on some actual Windows 8 hardware, stuff that's actually good for Windows 8. So this was a pretty exciting thing. So I was really disappointed that Sunday I wasn't able to get my Surfaces. I sat in the corner and cried a lot. Just walked down the streets in New Orleans all mad, kicking cans and hobos and stuff like that. So I just decided that Monday we didn't have any sessions. I had a couple of things going on, but we didn't have any sessions. So I decided to make sure that I got one Monday. So I got the Microsoft Store open to 10:30 Monday morning. There was the keynote before that and all that. At 8 o'clock, I walked out of the breakfast hall, and there was already a line for the Surfaces that didn't go on sale for 2.5 hours. So at that point, I went to the bathroom because I knew I was in this for the long haul, and I got in line at 8:15. 8:15, I got in line for an item that wasn't going to go on sale till 10:30. So fortunately, I was in line with a friend of mine, Liam Cleary, and then a couple other people that I got really friendly with over the next few hours, and we stood in line for a while. So got in line at 8:15. At 10:30, the Surfaces went on sale. The store opened and all that, and by 10:45, I had mine. So I only stood in line for 2.5 hours. And this little number is all mine now. So this right here is the Surface RT. You can't make sure there's nothing embarrassing on here. So we've all seen this, the modern interface or the Metro interface. I've heard nothing but horrendous things about how terrible Surface RT was, how it's to blame for the tornadoes in Oklahoma and all kinds of stuff like that. It was just a terrible, terrible device. And So I was expecting, for 99 bucks, I was like, we'll see what I can do. I've been using it now for a week. I don't hate it. I might actually like Windows RT. Now I know how silly this sounds. Stay with me here for a second. Don't be writing me off. I mentioned that I've got a couple of Android tablets. I've got a 10-inch Android tablet. It's one of the original Asus transformers. So it's a 10-inch tablet, and it's got a keyboard battery pack that mounts to it. I use that thing all the time when I travel. I don't like using laptops on a plane, and so this thing is pretty good. And I use it for watching videos. I load it up. It's got a card slot and all that. I load up videos and music on that. I do a little light typing on it, not a lot, because I can actually type faster than the keyboard and all that can register. But that was kind of what I saw this $99 Surface RT replacing, is this 2-year-old Android laptop. And when you look at it from the right perspective, the RT device is a great device. It's even better than my Android tablet. Again, a 2-year-old Android tablet, but I'm up to speed on Android. I know what's out there. And for 99 bucks, it's great. Now, I can tell you if I had spent $400 for it, I might not be quite as happy. But for $99, we got the Surface RT, and then we also got the worst of the two keyboards, the touch keyboard, kind of crappy. But it just kind of bolts in here like that, and it does this clicking thing. I don't know why Microsoft doesn't advertise this, but it's got a little stand that clicks. It's the craziest thing. But it's a good little device. I'm a big fan of it. I copied all my media off of it. I use it the rest of the week. When I was at Tech Ed, I took notes on it. It's got OneNote. It's got Word. It's got all the Office stuff. I took all my notes for the rest of my sessions on it. It had great battery life. Watched videos on it. Had great everything. A big fan. So I guess, and I'm probably going to write a blog post about this later on, because I think this is an interesting and important thing. Windows 8 has had, we'll say, less than stellar success, and Windows RT specifically has had not a great welcoming. But I think the problem with that is Microsoft has done a bad job positioning Windows RT. Windows RT will probably not replace your desktop computer or your laptop computer, but that's not what it's supposed to do. It's the same type of OS and the same type of usage as an iPad or an Android device. And so if you go into using an RT device with that it's going to be a consumption device, light email, that kind of stuff, watching videos, playing games, watching Netflix, that kind of stuff. For those kind of tasks, again, the same kind of tasks you'd use your iPad for or an Android device for, it's a great device. And let me give you another story. So I've got this great pod catching app for Android. It's Pocket Casts, highly recommended. But it downloads, you put all your podcasts in it. You can optionally download podcasts, and I've got that all set up. It syncs across all your devices. Love it. It filled up one of the memory cards on my Android device. And so I was getting errors in Android that the device was full and all that. So what do? You clean it up, right? This is easy. So in Android, it's easy to figure out which device is full. So that particular device of mine has a micro SD card, a regular SD card, and then the built-in memory, which shows up as USB. Crazy, but that's how it is. So it was easy for me to determine which one of those three was full, micro SD card. But what got hairy after that was figuring which folder in that drive was full, because there's no good file utilities inside of Android to do that stuff. Now, I've been using Android for a long time, so I use like ES File Explorer and Astro and all that kind of stuff. And just knowing what I know, I was able to go through and figure out where all that stuff was at. But it's not easy. It's a Unix file system. The names are kind of crazy and all that. On this device, on the Windows RT device, if I had that same problem, and I'm a newbie at Windows 8. I really don't have any Windows 8 devices. But if I had that same problem, I can just go to the desktop. And once I go to the desktop, I can just go to Explorer. And it's the same, and you guys can't see it in the video because of the glare, I apologize. But it's the same interface that I'm used to using with Windows 7 in Windows 8. It's just File Explorer. So I can browse my libraries and all that kind of stuff. So I can use the simple tablet interface, the Metro stuff, and I can do all the things that come with that. But if I need to get in and dig in, I've got this other, interface, this desktop interface where I can run the desktop stuff that I'm used to using. And so it's been a pretty good little device for me. Again, I'm only a week in, and so I don't have a lot of experience with it. But like we're seeing people in the in the chat room, there's this big confusion over which would you buy, the Surface Pro or the Surface RT? And it's because Microsoft has done a horrible job saying the Surface RT is analogous to a tablet, Android, iPad. A Surface Pro is analogous to your laptop. And they've just not done a good job of that. Now, a couple folks in the chat room noticed when I switched over to the desktop, they noticed something very familiar and something that I see a lot, and that is the bleeding red of a PowerShell prompt. Surface RT has PowerShell. It's a tablet with PowerShell. Now, not all of the PowerShell assemblies and all that I'm used to are here. For instance, the WScript one isn't, some of that other stuff, but it's PowerShell. So if I need to rename files or shut down computer or any of that kind of stuff, it's PowerShell and it's right in here. But it's got a battery that lasts 10 or 12 hours and all that kind of stuff. It's super thin. I think you can slice tomatoes with this thing. I haven't tried, but I'm pretty sure you can. And it's got the Windows button on it right here. So there's none of that whole how do I get back and forth between the desktop and Metro. It's just a great little device. So I'm a big fan of it so far. And another great thing that I discovered was there's this website that my wife uses, allrecipes.com. My wife's a great cook, as can be shown by my belly. But she used to use, or she's got an Android phone, and she was the other night was looking at some recipe on All Recipes, and she's all trying to hold her phone and trying to stir and cock her head to read the thing. There's an All Recipes app for the RT device. Just loaded it up, loaded a recipe up, and plunk, on the counter it went. It's great. So I guess the moral of the story is don't hate Windows RT because you're expecting to use, Photoshop on it or Camtasia or something, because that's just not the kind of device that it is. But if you're looking for something that you would use like your iPad, then RT's the way to go. And like I said, I'm planning a blog post on this. Tentatively, the title is I Don't Hate Windows RT, but I'm a big fan of it. So yeah, so there's a good post by Corey Roth. I've read that a while back. He posted that a few months ago, but at that time I really didn't have any experience with him, so I'll have to read it again and I'll probably understand his post a little better. But these Surfaces are great. So this is what Microsoft needed to do. So in the chat room, Lynn was asking if I was worried about them running out of devices. Microsoft was very clear all week long that there was one Surface RT and one Surface Pro for everybody at TechEd. Every single person that wanted one was going to get one. Now, I didn't necessarily believe them, but that was their story. Excuse me. But that's what Microsoft needed to do, and they should have done this months ago. Take 10,000 of us nerds and put these devices in our hands cheaply so we can figure them out. For those of you that watched the Windows Weekly episode that I was on, episode 302 a while back, we were kind of digging on Windows 8 and cutting it down and all that. I probably would have made some different arguments that day if I would have had these devices for the amount of time that I've had them. But Microsoft just hasn't done a great job with this. So this is a great thing. I assume that and also another thing that we learned last week was at the end of this month, Windows 8.1 or Windows Blue will be coming out in a preview, and then will be available sometime this fall. So I assume getting these devices out means there's going to be another wave of hardware coming out, but I'm not worried about that because, like I said before, the Android tablet that I was using is 2 years old. So this thing's a year old. I'm not worried about it. But it's really good. Memory cards, all that stuff. Big fan. So if you've been thinking about getting a Windows RT device to replace like a tablet or something, you're probably going to love it. You probably, at the very least, you probably won't hate it. Anyway, kind of got off on a rant there. I apologize for that. The folks in the chat room seem to like it, though. So that's good. So that was Monday. Monday night, there was a Windows Weekly tweet up in New Orleans, so I got to hang out with those guys. Paul and Mary Jo were there, and a bunch of other folks. So it was a good time, good folks. Tuesday, I think I didn't have much going on, went to some sessions, that kind of stuff. Wednesday, the folks at the Hey Scripting guy, the PowerShell scripting folks, Ed Wilson, asked me to do a guest at the booth there, so I was there for a half an hour or so answering PowerShell questions. I'm really not that smart when it comes to PowerShell, so I felt a little out of my element, but it worked out great. A bunch of you guys that know me swung by, and we chatted about that, hung out with those guys for a while. Wednesday afternoon, Shane and I did a book signing at the bookstore, but unfortunately, they'd already sold out of our book by the time there was the book signing, so we didn't get a lot of traction at the book signing because there was no books for people to buy. And throughout the week, people that had already bought the book had swung by and talked to us. So we got most of that out of the way. And then Thursday morning, Shane and I did our 75-minute What's New with SharePoint 2013 for admin session. Great crowd. So Adrian was in there. He can attest to the fact that we had a great crowd in there. Lots of participation. One of the things that Shane and I often do when we're giving stuff away is we play heads or tails. And obviously the way you play heads or tails is everybody stands up, you put your hand on your head or your tail, we flip a coin. If your hand's on your head and we do a head, you get to stand up, everybody else sits down, keep repeating until we have one person left. So one of the things that Shane and I like to do before the session starts is we just like to chat with people, kind of warm the crowd up, see what people are thinking about. And a guy came in and he was talking about how tough that room was to get into because it was a huge room and they had done some weird things. It was tough to get into that room. And this guy was talking about that, but he had a unique experience in that he was in like a motorized scooter, like a wheelchair sort of thing. And he's like, yeah, there's no elevator here. I had to do this thing and this thing. And we're like, oh yeah, that really stinks. So then after talking to the guy in the chair, the very next thing out of our mouth was, who wants a free copy of the book? Everybody that wants a free copy of the book, stand up. And he's like, that's not cool. I can't stand up. So that had never happened to us. In all the years we've been playing heads or tails, we've never had anybody in the room that couldn't stand up. I felt so terrible because we had just talked to the guy about, there not being elevator access. And I felt horrible. If we would have had 2 books, I would have just given him one because he was in the day-long thing too. I'd seen him a few times. He was, so I felt terrible. But we ended up giving the book out. The session went great. Shane didn't miss his flight because he had a flight at like, an hour and 20 minutes after our session got done. He got to the airport. Everything was good. But Tech Ed was a great success. I saw a whole bunch of you there. It was an awesome time. You can't go wrong with Tech Ed. It's a good time. So they had a good time there. So that was a Tech Ed wrap up. Again, I've been playing a bunch with the Surface RT. Haven't touched the Surface Pro much, but I will do some playing with that and get back to you guys on that. And that's all stuff that we all do as SharePoint folks. So it's saw some stuff in the chat room. So one of the things that's helped me with Windows 8 is the fact that I do all my demos on Windows Server 2012. And so I'm kind of used to that whole thing. Windows Server 2012 boots to the desktop, which is nice, whereas the Windows 8 devices boot to Metro. But that helped me definitely get up to speed on it. So Eric Harlan in the chat room, and I thought I had blocked him. I'm not sure how he got in the chat room. I'm going to have to check my filters again. So Eric's asking in the chat room what I thought the ratio of good SharePoint content to overall content at Tech Ed was. I'll be honest, Eric, I didn't go to any SharePoint sessions at Tech Ed, but there wasn't much. There was just a handful of SharePoint sessions, period. But they were mostly, by good folks. I think Dan Holm had one. Chris McNulty had one. At the bottom of the barrel, Shane and I had one. So that one obviously wasn't too great. There's a couple of ones on search, but there wasn't a lot of SharePoint. There was a lot of stuff about the new version of Windows and that kind of stuff. And that's probably something after I get a chance to read up on that. I'll probably talk about that next week. The new version of SQL, the new version of Windows and all that kind of stuff. But there just wasn't, a lot of SharePoint content, period. So Eric brought this up. Boy, it's always a great night when Eric stops in the chat room. It's, everybody's lives are enriched and you just walk away with a better experience when Eric's here. When I first tweeted this netcast out earlier today, I mistyped netcast as netcat. So I said something about there would be a netcat tonight, whatever. And so him and Mark Anderson and a whole bunch of people were like, oh, netcats, that's great. I love cats. Mittens and I'll be there at 8:30. It'll be great. So Eric was reminding me of that. So I guess my only thing that I'm going to say is, there's no cats. No cats were harmed in the filming of this netcast, anything like that. Yeah, and Adrian Hall in the chat room is mentioning there were a lot of sessions on PowerShell. I went to a great PowerShell session with Don Jones and Jeff Snover. For those of you who don't know who that is, Jeffrey Snover is essentially the godfather of PowerShell. He's and I don't know what his official title is at Microsoft. It's a big, lofty title, but PowerShell is his baby, and he and Don Jones. Don, I'm going to name drop here. Don's a friend of mine, and he's a great PowerShell guy. He teaches PowerShell classes, writes PowerShell books. He's a huge PowerShell evangelist. They had a session together, and as a presenter, and as somebody who thinks he's not a horrible presenter, it's often tough for me to go to other people's sessions if they don't present well, if they don't engage the audience and they don't have lots of energy and things like that. It's very difficult for me to sit through those sessions because I know what they could be doing to make the material more entertaining. When I sat in on Jeff Snover and Don Jones's session, it felt like what I hope our sessions feel like, Shane and I's sessions feel like to other people. You could tell that Don and Jeff knew each other and were friendly, and they were cracking on each other the whole time. And it was just, there was a lot of energy. You could tell they were excited about PowerShell, that they interacted well with each other. And that 75-minute session just flew by, and I've got a whole bunch of notes from that one. It was a great session. But my favorite one was Don was showing a thing off, and Jeff was like, well, don't do that, don't do that thing. So then Don went in and commented something out, went and did the thing, and then he was running it over. He's like, oh, this part's not working. And Jeff's like, well, you didn't run the thing. And he's like, oh, yeah, I did. And so Jeff's got it up on the screen. He's like, and he points to the hash time, the comment. He's like, no, you didn't do it. And Don's like, oh, that. And Jeff's like, I want to see that trending on Twitter. I want to see, that trending on Twitter. And that is just like something that would come out of one of Shane and I's sessions. So it was if you ever get a chance to see Don Jones or Jeffrey Snover present, you got to do it. Even if you don't know much about PowerShell, you'll be a better person for it. It's a great session. They did a really good job. And I think they're going to do it again in Madrid here in a couple of weeks. So I'll probably sit through it again because it was just that entertaining. So Adrian, thanks for reminding me about that. Okay, enough about TechEd. Now I have another non-SharePoint thing to talk to you about. Oh, I lied. That's not enough about TechEd. So as they've been doing with all of the TechEd sessions for the last couple of years, all the videos from the sessions and the PowerShells, or the PowerPoints, excuse me, for the speakers that have actually uploaded their PowerPoints to the TechEd folks, are available on Channel 9, so you can download them all. And me, being the PowerShell guy that I am, thought, there's got to be a great way to just download all of these sessions at one time with PowerShell. And I say that because every year there's always a way to download all of these sessions with PowerShell. So I thought, great, that will be an option that we can do this year. And so sure enough, 100 people had already posted their version of PowerShell scripts that download all the videos from the TechEd site. And that's great because there's a couple of them that I meant to get to. It hadn't, so I started into that. But then I realized at least the one PowerShell script that I settled on didn't download the PowerPoints. And I kind of wanted that for the cases of, keeping notes and all that kind of stuff. And so I blogged today, if you go to toddklindt.com/TechEd2013 downloads, it is a derivative script that I wrote based on the one from GitHub that will download all the videos, but also all of the PowerPoints from all the sessions that are out there published on Channel 9. So again, I didn't write the script. I only steal the best PowerShell scripts and I add like 2 lines to them, call them my own. So that's what this is. Another thing to be worried about, I let this thing run overnight. It took 9 hours to run and downloaded 65 gig of content. So be very, very careful with that. But it's good stuff. And if you know enough about PowerShell, you can go in there and set some filters and stuff like that. So you only get Exchange ones, you only get SharePoint ones, whatever. But I put that out there, and so I've had a good time with that. So I've been plowing through those. So now I promise that's all there is about TechEd, until somebody in the chat room reminds me of something about TechEd. So the next non-SharePoint related topic that I wanted to talk about is something that's near and dear to my heart, and that is patent trolls. Who here likes patent trolls? Anybody? Show of hands. Nobody likes patent trolls. Patent trolls' mothers don't like their patent trolls. If a patent troll gets a dog, the dog won't play with the patent troll. Dogs are not a patent troll's best friend. Patent trolls are terrible people. And just so we're kind of all clear on what a patent troll is a patent troll is somebody who, through acquiring patents through a bankruptcy or something like that, owns a patent but doesn't actively use it, isn't in the business of the context of the patent, but uses the patent purely for legal means of licensing it out to other people and suing people because of the stuff in the patents. So recently, an individual who in the 1990s had an idea of recording magazine articles onto cassettes and sending them to you through the mail, patented this idea, and now all these years later is saying that every podcast and netcast is in violation of his patent, and he started suing podcasters. He sued Mark Maron, Adam Carolla, a few other folks. Luckily for us, this endeavor that I've got going on here has slid underneath the radar, but I can only assume that my cease and desist letter will be in the mail any minute now. But anyway, he's going after all these folks, and he's trying to get them to license this patent that he has on podcasting. Kind of silly, but here's my call to action for you guys. If you go to Ars Technica, and of course there'll be a link in the show notes, Ars Technica talks about it. The EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF.org, is having a drive. They are in our stead. They are going to fight this patent. And so they're looking for donations to help the legal effort to fight this patent against netcasting. Also, Grok Law has a article about it as well. So my call to action to you is read up on this, get educated on it if you care. And if you feel like this guy should not be able to sue folks like me and make us license the ability for you guys to download podcasts, think about sending some of those folks $10 or something like that, and help that. And I talked about how the patent trolls are near and dear to my heart. Number one, because it's the thing that I'm doing right now that he's going to try to sue me for. And number two, Rackspace has, in the last year or so, decided they've had it with patent trolls. A patent troll decided he was going to come after Rackspace, and our legal department went, oh no, he didn't. And they went back after him, and they've countersued the patent troll now. And so it's just something that's kind of in our blood here at Rackspace. So again, if it's something you're interested in and you want to support, go out to EFF.org and throw those folks $5 or something like that. All right. So I've got a couple of minutes left. I'm already over my half-hour mark, and I haven't even talked about SharePoint. So one of the things that I did want to mention, and I suppose I have to do this since Eric Harlan is in the room, a couple weeks ago, Eric and I, we call each other on the weekends, and we just lay in bed and twirl our hair and chat on the phone. And Eric is in the process of moving the content from SharePointSaturday.org to spevents.com, I think. And so he was having some questions about how to move the when people go to the old SharePoint Saturday links, but he wants them to go to the new spevents.com link. But how to get all that done in the best way, and also not to lose all of the search stuff. Google's indexed that, and I assume Bing has, though I don't ever go there. But he wanted to make sure that the search relevance for spevents.org, stayed with the SharePointSaturday.org. So him and I were kind of chatting about that, and I told him that if it was me, number one, I would probably just given up. But if I was forced to actually do the thing that he was trying to do, I would probably use the IIS7 URL rewrite module. So IIS7, when it came out, got a whole different architecture to it. And it's got these modules you can plug in, and one of them is this URL rewrite. So Eric hadn't had a chance to use that. Told him about that. We kind of talked about it a little bit, and he put out a pretty good blog post on ericharlan.com, at least as good a blog post as he's capable of doing. But it talks about how he did this wholesale rule with the URL rewrite that rewrote every URL. So he put this on the SharePoint Saturday.org server, and every request that came in, he shot that browser back a 301, a permanent redirect to the spevents.org URL, so that people's bookmarks should get updated and that kind of stuff. The search folks, they catch all that, and so it's so Eric is furiously typing in the chat room. It's spsevents.org. So I have absolutely screwed up this URL every way possible. It is spevents.org, and you can always tell when I do the little thing here, that's my visual cue to put the URL in when I do the edits. So spsevents.org. That's where all the new SharePoint Saturday type stuff is going. So Eric's blog post is pretty good. If you're thinking about doing any kind of URL rewriting in SharePoint, that's the only supported way to do it. So I like that. Okay, let's see. We have time for one more thing. I want to pick this one. So Microsoft has released a whole bunch of articles about stuff lately, and one of them is how to understand and evaluate hosting options for SharePoint farms. And this is basically, if you're a company that's thinking about doing Office 365 or Rackspace or keeping your stuff on premises or something, this is Microsoft's explanation for all this. This is Microsoft's guidance on how you should evaluate that. And they do a pretty good job of saying, here's what you can do on Office 365, here's what you can't do, those kind of things. So if you're thinking about hosting and that kind of stuff, check out that link below. Understand and evaluate hosting options for SharePoint farms. It's a pretty good one. Okay, so I've got a couple of other things, but I will save them for next week because we've gone horribly over, and I haven't even gone to everybody's favorite part of the program, the shameless self-promotion part. I know that's why you guys all show up, so let's do that. So first off, we've got the old Professional SharePoint 2010 admin book sold out at TechEd, and I got a list of the top selling books from the guy that runs the bookstore there. It was in the top 10 best-selling book last week, and I can only assume that it would have taken the #1 spot had there actually been enough books. Had it not sold out like on Tuesday, then I can only assume that there would have been thousands of sales that week. So you can go to toddklindt.com/pro-sp2013 admin and notice how I get all of my URLs correct. You can go there and find out all about the book, and if you would like to order an autographed copy of the book, as somebody did just earlier today, I'll be shipping that out tomorrow morning. You can order an autographed copy of the book from me, from my site, and I will scribble something very nice to you and very mean and hateful towards Shane and ship it out to you, and you'll have it in a couple of days, and you'll have an autographed copy. You can show your friends. I've heard that autographed copies of the book has actually got people out of speeding tickets. True story. So you can get that toddklindt.com/pro-sp2013 admin. 2 weeks from right now, I will be sleeping in Madrid, Spain, because I will be at TechEd Europe. So you can go to europe.msteched.com if you are in Europe. Sign up for that. Again, I'll be doing the pre-conference session, and I'll also be doing the 75-minute session, and then wherever else I can pop my head up, every booth that will have me, all that. So if you're going to be at TechEd Europe, by all means, let me know. I'll be publishing a blog post with my schedule. You can find me, but you got to say hey and come for all that. The next thing in August is SP TechCon. Shane and I will be doing some sessions there. I don't remember what they are. I can only imagine that it'll be incredibly exciting. You can sign up for that at sptechcon.com, and if you sign up, I think you can use the code Klindt, and you will get one of those pencils with the big fuzzy erasers on the end if you use that code. So sign up for SP TechCon. Again, if you're going to be at SP TechCon, give me a shout. Come find me. And then finally, I've been teasing you all that I did an episode of The Moss Show with my buddy Hilton, and that episode 71, I believe, has been published. And so you can go to themossshow.com and listen to Hilton and I chatting. Hilton and I go back several years, and it was just fun catching up with him and chatting about hosting and SharePoint and PowerShell and all kinds of great stuff. So please go out there, hammer Hilton servers, download that episode as many times as you can. He would like that, and it would make me feel like a big deal if you all did a bunch of downloads of that. So you can go out to the Moss Show. Also, I've told you all about my campaign to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube so I can try the YouTube live thing. And if you go to youtube.com/Todd Klindt Netcast and subscribe to my channel, I only need to get to 1,000 subscribers before I can do the YouTube streaming live. And I haven't checked lately to see where I'm at. I can only assume that I'm still at 100 like I was when I first started this ridiculous campaign. I can't even tell how many subscribers I have. Crap. This is 141. Well, you guys have done a good job. So yes, we only need to get like eight of you. You know, everybody who signed up gets 8 people. I get to 1,000. I can try streaming live on YouTube. How exciting would that be? All right, everybody. So I've got a lot of great SharePoint stuff to talk about next week that I didn't get a chance to talk about this week. But thanks to everybody. Sorry about showing up late, and sorry about all the tech ed talk and all that. But thanks to everybody. I will be here next week, Monday, June 17th. So set your calendars, and I'll see you then. So thanks, everybody, and have a good night.